China just wiped revenge love off Weibo without warning. And if you think that's just a glitch, you haven't been paying attention. This is the exact playbook Beijing used before, nuking Addicted, Guardian, and every other BL that got way too popular, with another 30-plus Danmei writers already arrested this year and international platforms now in the crosshairs. Your favorite show, unfortunately, might be next. Welcome to BLT time.
It's a good tea.
All right, before we dive deeper into the censorship stuff, let's talk about what revenge love actually is, because understanding the show helps explain why Beijing might be a little nervous. Revenge Love is adapted from a BL novel called Counterattack by Shai Jidan, the same author who wrote Addicted, you know, the other series that got completely nuked by Chinese censors back in 2016. We're already kind of dealing with an author who's on Beijing's radar. And the original novel was published back in 2015. Now, I won't spoil the details, but this story is an enemies to lovers story about a rich guy and a not so rich guy who start off as rivals to some extent and end up falling for each other. Classic BL tropes abound, but executed with the kind of emotional depth that made Shai Jidan's famous in the first place. This series is a Singapore mainland co-production. 24 episodes total, episodes drop every Monday and Tuesday, and it's been absolutely dominating GagaOOLala, and it's been #1 for 3 weeks straight. We're not talking about niche success here. This show is pulling some serious numbers. International audiences are binge watching, social media engagement is through the roof. It's exactly the kind of breakout hit that gets Beijing's attention. The production budget was substantial too. It's high quality cinematography, professional marketing campaign, and this wasn't just some low budget web series flying under the radar. This was a serious commercial venture. Ziyu plays Xiu Wei and Tian Xuning plays Qi Cheng. And these actors, they have some serious screen presence. If you've seen any of the clips or watched the show, you know that their chemistry is undeniable. The kind that makes fans create compilation videos and ship them in real life. Combined hashtags for Revenge Love have hit over 1 million across TikTok and Instagram, and fan art is everywhere. International viewers are learning Mandarin just to follow along in the interviews. Ziyu already had a following from previous work, but Revenge Love is launching Tian Xuning a little bit more into a different stratosphere this time. He's gaining thousands of followers daily, brand partnerships are starting to materialize, and this is kind of the career-making success that actors dream about, right? Revenge Love doesn't shy away from the romance either. There's actual kissing scenes, emotional intimacy, physical attraction with some, let's just say, spicy scenes. And while we can certainly have a discussion about some of the more essay and grape flavoredness of some of the scenes, there's no denying that there's chemistry between these two. It's everything that Beijing's 2021 sissy-men directive was designed to prevent. Emotional vulnerability between male characters, non-traditional masculinity, open affection that can't be reinterpreted as bromance, which is kind of a nice thing. We've got a show based on work by a previously banned author. It's co-produced with international money, and it's succeeding on platforms Beijing can't directly control. It's generating massive social media buzz, and the leads are becoming celebrities internationally. And the content itself is unambiguously queer. From a Chinese censorship perspective, that's like hitting every red button all at once. Popular content, international distribution, social media virality, rising star power, and a creator with a history of producing content Beijing just doesn't like. Add in the fact that it's currently the most successful BL series on international platforms in 2025, and you've got exactly the kind of cultural export that makes nationalist voice scream about abnormal values corrupting China's image abroad. No wonder they're paying attention. Revenge Love represents everything Beijing has been trying to eliminate. So let's break down the facts, because there's a lot of speculation flying around right now, and we need to separate what we know from what we're just guessing at. First, the credible rumor. On July 1st, around 10:30 p.m. China time, something happened. The Weibo super topic for Revenge Love just disappeared. Gone. Replaced with the standard topic closed notice. And anyone who's followed Chinese BL dramas before knows that's basically the kiss of death. It's like the Windows blue screen of death. Now, let me explain what a super topic actually is. On Weibo, super topics are dedicated spaces where fans gather to discuss specific shows, actors, or franchises. Think of it like a Reddit community, but integrated into China's biggest social media platform. These spaces can have millions of followers. They're where fans share clips, post reviews, organize viewing parties, and create fan art. For Revenge Love, the super topic had hundreds of thousands of active users, daily discussions, trending hashtags, fan-generated content getting millions of views. It was the beating heart of the Chinese fan base. And then, it just stopped existing. Multiple users reported it at the same time. Screenshots started circulating immediately. Within hours, Sina Finance, that's a major Chinese financial news outlet, ran a piece with screenshots of the freeze notice. The headline literally translated to "Revenge Love super topic suddenly shut down." When mainstream financial media is covering a fandom blackout, that tells you this isn't some minor technical glitch. Weibo doesn't just randomly delete trending topics for technical reasons. This is a platform that handles millions of posts every single day, hundreds of thousands of active super topics, billions of interactions. They have redundant systems, backup servers. Technical failures don't just make entire communities disappear overnight. When a super topic vanishes, especially for a popular BL series, that's a deliberate action. Someone made a decision. Someone gave an order. Someone wanted that conversation to stop happening. And the timing? July 1st? That's not random either. July 1st is the founding day of the Chinese Communist Party. Beijing always cranks up content monitoring around major political anniversaries. Now, for what we know for sure, Revenge Love never got the NRTA broadcast license for mainland China. For those of you who may not know, that's the National Radio and Television Administration. Basically, that's the Chinese content gatekeepers. That's the ultimate authority on what can and cannot air domestically. Let me break down how this system works. Any drama filmed in China, or even partly financed from mainland China, needs their stamp of approval before it can air domestically. We're talking about a formal review process. Content gets screened, scripts get analyzed, political messaging gets evaluated. It's not just about quality control. It's about ideological compliance. Does this show promote correct values? Does it align with party priorities? Does it present China in a positive light? Revenge Love doesn't have that license. In fact, it never actually applied for it, never went through the review process, which is why it's only streaming on GagaOOLala and Viki through Singapore servers. This is actually pretty common for BL content. Most producers know they won't get domestic approval, so they just skip the process entirely. Film the content, produce it for international distribution, and just bypass the Chinese censorship through offshore platforms. But it also makes these shows extremely vulnerable because they exist in a legal gray area. No official protection, no regulatory cover, and if Beijing decides they're problematic, there's no bureaucratic process to contest that decision. And while this isn't unusual for BL content, it's also not a coincidence. When Beijing wants to squeeze a show, the Weibo blackout is usually step number one. It's a very predictable playbook. First, social media discussions get shut down, then search results get throttled, then domestic news coverage disappears, then international platforms start facing pressure. We've seen this exact sequence with Addicted, with Guardian, with Immortality. The pattern is always the same, and fans are already seeing the early warning signs. Beyond the super topic closure, users are reporting that searches for the show are returning limited results. Posts containing the title are getting less visibility. Even indirect references are being algorithmically, I cannot say that. Indirect references are being algorithmically suppressed. Chinese fans are starting to use code words, alternate hashtags, euphemisms, the same tactics they developed during previous crackdowns, because they know what comes next. That's where we are currently. Unofficial social media ban, no domestic licensing, suppressed search results, and a fan base that's seen this movie too often. The question isn't whether Beijing is targeting revenge love. The question is how far they're willing to go this time. Look, after everything we just talked about, the bans, the blackouts, the geo-blocking, it's clear that fans need platforms they can actually trust. And that's exactly what DramaLlama is building. Right now, they're curating links to BL and GL series across different platforms, making it easier to find what you want to watch. But their vision is much, much bigger. They want to create the first platform where you can watch and connect all in one place. They're calling it social plus media. No more hunting across multiple streaming sites, no more fragmented fan communities, everything you need as a BL and GL fan in one place. But DramaLlama isn't just about streaming. It's built by fans for fans, which means they actually understand what we need. Full transparency, this platform is still in beta. They're still testing out a lot of the features and working out a lot of the kinks. But what they've already got is pretty impressive, if I do say so. A safe space where you can actually talk about BL and GL content without worrying about algorithmic censorship like on certain other black and white platforms. TikTok. Plus, a complete archive with ratings and detailed information about every single series. Gone are the days of hunting across different platforms trying to figure out where something is streaming. No more wondering if a show is actually worth your time. It's all there in one place. If you want to check it out and start chatting with other fans who actually get why this censorship stuff matters, head over to DramaLlamas.com. Now, let's get back to Revenge Love. So, we've covered what's happened and why fans are so worried. But what should we be actually looking for? Based on past cases, there are 3 escalation scenarios that could play out next. And I want to be crystal clear, these are projections based on historical patterns, but not confirmed events. Scenario 1 is the stealth edit. This is what happened to Guardian in 2018. The show runs normally for most of its episodes, and then suddenly new versions start appearing with key scenes just altered out of nowhere. For Revenge Love, watch for episodes getting re-uploaded with blurred kisses, romantic scenes getting cut shorter, intimate moments reframed as a bromance. If Gaga or Viki suddenly swap out episodes without explanation, that's Beijing applying pressure behind the scenes. Platforms often cave to this kind of soft censorship because it's easier than losing the entire show, but the entire country too. The second scenario is actor blacklisting. This mirrors what happened to addicted leads in 2016 and what has been rumored about the untamed leads as well. Ziyu and Tian Xuning could suddenly start losing Chinese brand endorsements. Social media posts featuring them might get deleted. Their names could become unsearchable on Chinese platforms. The warning signs would be subtle at first. Canceled promotional events that are billed as some illness or something, withdrawn sponsorship deals, then escalating to complete erasure from Chinese entertainment media. This strategy is particularly effective because it punishes individuals, not just the content. It sends a message to other actors as well, that if they participate in BL projects, their career is over. Scenario 3 is the full IP block. and it's the nuclear option. Beijing pressures ISPs, or internet service providers, to block access to Revenge Love entirely. Chinese viewers can't reach GagaOOLala or Viki even with VPNs. If that happens, international platforms face an impossible choice. They can either geo-restrict the content from Chinese markets, or they just completely lose China users forever. Not just for this series, but fully. We've seen this playbook with AO3 in 2020. Archive of Our Own got completely firewalled in China. Millions of users lost access overnight, and the block is still active to this day. Again, these are just projections based on how previous cases have unfolded in the past, but understanding the escalation patterns helps fans to prepare for what might actually be coming next. Look, I need to be real with you for just a minute here. This isn't just about Revenge Love. This is about something much, much bigger and much more dangerous. The representation gap is already devastating. Mandarin language queer stories are incredibly rare. When one actually breaks through and finds an audience, it matters. These stories don't just entertain people, they show LGBTQ+ viewers that they exist, that others like them exist, that their experiences are valid, that they deserve love stories too. Beijing is systematically eliminating that representation, not just limiting it, but eliminating it. But the geopolitical implications make this even more complex. Revenge Love is streaming on GagaOOLala and Viki. GagaOOLala is Taiwan-based. Viki is Japanese-owned, and Beijing has territorial disputes with both countries. Beijing considers Taiwan to be part of China, despite Taiwan operating as an independent democracy for over 70 years. Meanwhile, China and Japan relations are constantly strained over everything from trade disputes to military tensions in the South China Sea. In all fairness in that one, though, the tensions largely stem from atrocities committed by Japan in World War II when they sided with Nazi Germany. When Beijing pressures Gaga to drop content, they're not just exercising cultural influence, they're asserting territorial control. They're sending a message that Taiwanese companies should follow mainland policies even when operating under Taiwan's legal framework. This is soft power imperialism. Beijing is using economic leverage to extend Chinese censorship into Taiwan's media ecosystem. And if they succeed with Revenge Love, it sets a precedent for pressuring Taiwanese platforms on any content Beijing disapproves of. Beijing is also risking serious diplomatic blowback with Asian partners. Singapore producers invested real money into Revenge Love. Regional co-production partnerships depend on creative freedom and shared profits. When China starts dictating what international partners can and cannot produce, that threatens the entire Southeast Asia media ecosystem. Why would Singapore, Thailand, or the Philippines want to collaborate with Chinese studios if Beijing can unilaterally just destroy their investment? Quite frankly, this is also soft power suicide. Beijing is teaching its neighbors that creative partnerships with China come with impossible political strings attached. If Beijing successfully pressures foreign platforms to drop Revenge Love, that sets a precedent that goes way beyond Taiwan. Suddenly, China doesn't just control domestic content, they control what international audiences can watch. Today, it's Revenge Love. Tomorrow, it could be any LGBTQ+ title that Beijing decides is problematic. Thai dramas, Korean series, Filipino queer cinema. All of it becomes vulnerable if we establish that China can export its censorship globally. But here's what makes this whole situation even more infuriating. China has a rich history of LGBTQ+ stories. Yeah, we're talking about Emperor Ai of Han, who ruled from 7 BCE to 1 CE. His love affair with Dongshan literally created the Chinese idiom of cut sleeve, which is a beautiful reference to homosexual love that's been part of Chinese culture for over 2,000 years. The story goes that Emperor Ai cut his own sleeve rather than wake Don Shan, who had fallen asleep on his arm. That became a symbol of devotion and same-sex love that lasted for centuries. So when Beijing claims that LGBTQ plus content promotes abnormal values, they're not just attacking modern representation, they're erasing their own cultural heritage. They're pretending that queer people haven't existed in China for millennia. This is why revenge love matters. It's not just entertainment. It's cultural preservation, it's representation, it's creative freedom, it's international cooperation, it's proof that love stories transcend borders and political systems. And when governments try to destroy that, we have to fight back. We, the fans, have power. We have numbers, we have economic influence, we have platforms. We can make noise that governments and corporations can't ignore. Beijing might control what happens on Weibo, but they don't control international social media. They don't control our wallets, and they don't control our voices. So if you care about revenge love, if you care about LGBTQ plus representation, if you care about creative freedom, don't just watch passively. Support the platforms hosting this content. Amplify fan voices, make it clear that censorship has consequences. Because the moment we accept that any one government can dictate what the rest of the world gets to watch, we've lost something fundamental about artistic freedom and human dignity. And I'm not just talking about China in this one. This story matters, though, and these actors matter. And most importantly, the representation matters too. So that's where we stand on revenge love. A Weibo blackout that follows Beijing's proven censorship playbook, an author who's already been targeted once, a broader crackdown that's putting Danmei writers in prison, and international platforms caught in the crossfire yet again. This story is far from over. In fact, it's probably just getting started. As always, I will be keeping a close eye on the situation, watching for episode edits, actor blacklisting, platform pressure, whatever comes next. And if you want to stay in the loop, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because when Beijing makes their next move, you're going to want to hear about it, and we'll be there to cover it. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Are fans right to be worried? Should international platforms cave to Chinese pressure? And what are you doing to support the BL content you love? If this video has helped you understand what's really happening with revenge love, smash that like button and share it with other fans who need to know. Because the more people understand how this censorship machine works, the harder it becomes for Beijing to operate in the shadows. And remember, check out DramaLlama at dramallamas.com if you want a safe space to discuss all of this without algorithmic censorship. The fight for representation is never over, but it requires all of us to stay informed, stay vocal, and stay united. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode with whatever chaos the BL world throws at us next. Until then, keep streaming, keep supporting, and keep fighting for the stories that matter. Bye!